I think we need to figure out
With the lights.
how to
If we-
put the
if we-
name.
Oh, yes, our name is available.
No,
No,
just
this
with the
screen.
the screen. Take that middle name. I don't know why that's in the middle and everybody else.
Are they going to maybe, who's this?
We are now streaming on YouTube.
All right, I'd like to welcome DMV to this. It's a working group. I'm not quite familiar how to run a working group separately than a hearing, but welcome to DMV if you guys are ready. I believe you had a couple of questions from before to respond to today, and my co-chair Represario is all set. I think we can move forward.
I'm ready to
Good
go.
morning, Chairman Lopes and Rosario, ranking members Sicarella and Salskowski, and distinguished members of the Appropriations Committee. My name is Sibongile Makubane, and I'm the Commissioner of the DMV. I'm joined today by Deputy Commissioner Guerrera, Attorney Michelle Givens, Attorney Sharon Generakis, Fiscal Director Daryl Grant, Chief Operations Officer Gail Billett, IT Director Claudius Alexander, and Lieutenant Chris Smith, Legislative Liaison Millie Torres. So we did send you answers to the 14 questions that you posed to us. I would like to understand, do you want us to go through each question, or do you want to do more of a Q&A based on the answers we provided?
I will open up to the wisdom of the committee, as this is the first year I've ever been on a probe. So the first year I've chaired one of these meetings. I'm a little bit lost. So Rep. Salskowski, I see you there. If you got to chime in, always feel free. But I would, for my edification, if you guys could just briefly go over each question and answer. And then if we have further questions, we can ask more. But feel free, everyone else, to chime in. Tammy or anyone else.
Yeah, I think that's the best approach. Just go through the questions.
Okay, that sounds good. Do I need to read each one of them, or does everybody have the questions that we submitted?
I have them. Other people, I'm not sure about.
Okay, so
I have them in front of me. I'm ready.
Okay, so I'll just read the questions and then answer. In some instances, I'll turn them over to one of the staff members. So the first question was, provide a 3 to 5 year modernization plan that includes the transition or replacement of DMV's mainframe license. So what I thought I would do as a kickoff is to make sure that I explain really the full scope of the modernization program. So there are multiple pieces. One is really the front end, where, as you've seen, we are upgrading our website and delivering online services. And we released the first release back in November, and now we're in the process of planning the second release. Then there's a piece of the modernization that includes stronger ID verification, ensuring that and we're working very closely with BEST on some of these initiatives. And these are part of the enterprise framework under which the DMV is updating the business systems. And then the next two pieces are the enterprise shared services, like a payment module, as well as the enterprise tools that are being delivered for us to use. And then the fifth piece is the DMV modernization, which Claudius sent, our IT director, sent a description in terms of how we are approaching the modernization. I see that Claudius has entered the meeting, and so he'll just give a brief overview of the overarching goal of the modernization, as well as what we're proposing to do for the next 3 years. Claudius, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Commissioner.
Okay, so you can, I know the information is in the docket, but they wanted us to really, can you just go over it very quickly, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Okay. So as you described, the modernization is several phases, and the mainframe replacement is one of them. And the document that I provided was about the 3-year plan to replace the mainframe. So the mainframe replacement being part of the modernization, if you look at year one, what we're proposing is already in progress. And the modernization had a lot to do with that in creating the platform that we need, creating a web-based front-end application with a middle layer that communicates with our legacy back-end systems. So this part of the modernization was driven by a response to COVID and needing to rapidly get this in place, but it facilitated the first year of the mainframe replacement in that we now have this platform where we could move into year 2 with moving other applications on a mainframe to this environment. Going back to the modernization, I mean, we have a lot of online services. Based on the platform that we've built, we've been able to put a lot of services that the DMV provides online. And as the Commissioner expressed, we continue to do that as we move into the second phase of the modernization. So in a nutshell, that's where we are with the modernization and the mainframe replacement. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, then I'll move on.
Actually, I have a question. I wasn't sure how we were, what we were going to do, raising hands or anything like that. This is an ambitious plan. Question, how do you, and I'm trying to put this delicately because of all the problems that we had with the registration system a few years ago. How are you looking at this to be able to avoid some of the massive problems that occurred with the registration system several years ago? I just want to find out how you're actually preparing for this and making sure that you're dealing with this up front.
Okay, so 6 years ago, it was a Big Bang Theory where it was a huge system with an implementation and one-shot deal. And so what fell out were the issues. The way that we're doing this, as what Claudius explained. So firstly, the online piece was establishing the framework. And so the front end is done. The ID verification, we are leveraging the framework that's been put in place by BEST. The enterprise services like the payment module is out there. In some instances, it's going to be a migration to enterprise from locally built. And then the tools have been provided to the team. And some of them are cutting edge tools in terms of how to manage code, how to test. Claudius can share a little bit of that. And then at the back end, you see that it's a 3-year journey where we in essence have built a framework, and piece by piece, we're going to peel off a portion of the business logic and move it to the new environment. So it will be a gradual migration, which really mitigates the risk of this Big Bang Theory. In the meantime, we have a better understanding of a holistic picture. We have partnered with experts from DAS. We have their team is in kind of integrated with us. And they're also part of, as you know, the governor's vision to design every transaction from the end user's shoes to have the front door. And that's what I called where customer or Connecticut residents enter and register. That's the future, as well as the whole notion of moving online. So we're kind of using that triangle framework and gradually migrating our systems over the next 3 years. So in terms of replacing the mainframe. As we talk about the online pieces, they started back in November. Again, we have a target platform that we're not building from scratch. We now have 6 transactions out there that we delivered since November. And then for the rest of the year, we are evaluating 116 potential transactions. We'll then, quote, chunk it up into deliverable pieces. So really the strategy and the approach, it does exactly what you're talking about, which is mitigate the risk of just one day, everything gets shut down and everything comes up. So you'll just see continued delivery over time. And so right now we have 5 transactions by the end of the quarter. Next quarter, we may have 10, the next quarter, an additional 10. And then by the end of the year, we should probably have anywhere from, 25 to maybe 35 transactions that are operating online.
And
And then-
you're working hand in hand with DAS on this as well?
Yes, we are. Mark Raymond is part of we have an executive steering committee. DAS has provided experts in enterprise, in enterprise solution. Deb Gupta. We have an expert from DAS in terms of user design, so that they're working with they're the ones that are helping with our website. Our team is receiving ongoing training. Claudius has over 30 years of IT experience in government. So we really do. And then we have a consultant that's supporting us, but it's a very close working relationship, because what we want to do is over time build the skills with our staff so that they're able to support. And so it's kind of really experts at the table. And I have a background in delivering large scale systems. And we really follow a very deliberate, almost I call it the belt and suspenders approach, where you're really anticipating the risk. You have risk mitigation plans, and so the gradual approach to me is really the magic to being very, very careful. But there will be issues. In addition, just one final piece. Before we rolled out the online, we started with friends and families, which was 25 people. We kept adding on. We learned a lot in these gradual, so that by the time we got to production, we had addressed almost all the bugs, and we really have not had any. We did a joint performance test with BEST and other experts, because the mainframe is 60 years old. So you want to make sure that it will perform. So those are the things that we're doing. Very close relationship with all of the key stakeholders.
Okay, thank you very much. It seems like a very deliberate approach is it's something that's very much called for at this point. And thank you for your answers. I know that we have other people that are
Okay,
have
sorry it
questions
took so
as well.
Yeah, sorry it took so long. I just think that's
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. And so the next question,
hold on.
oh, sorry.
I have both Rep Ferraro and Rep France up for questions. I did not see who was up first, but
Okay.
one of you feel free to go ahead.
Okay, my question has to do with the rollout. First, I would just like to thank those that testified, because she definitely took the time to explain in detail some of the problems that they faced and how they're upgrading the system and that. It does appear from her description that the greatest cost to modernizing the mainframe is going to come into the software and personnel training. I was just wondering, what is the overall cost for the implementation, one? And two, once it's implemented 3 years from now, as she indicated, what type of cost savings does she see in the program? Thank you.
So right now, we're actually in the estimation phase. We're defining the requirements, because we're just launching literally next week is the first meeting where we're going to get together with all of the experts. So we're in the process of collecting the requirements. Because we have to settle on the strategy first. So because this is huge, there were multiple options that we could have pursued. One being, custom off the shelf, and that can be very expensive. So we're in the process of costing this out. And at the point, it'll take us maybe 2 to 3 months really to finalize those estimates. And then we'll be able to share. And we'll also be able to determine future savings, but I don't have those answers right now. They're in the process of being developed.
Do you anticipate that the cost will be within the appropriated means, or do you foresee needing additional funds?
we'll probably need additional funds.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Representative France?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And following along those same lines, I appreciate the answers and thoughtfulness into the plan. And I go back to the original transition over 8 years that was kind of shut down in about 2014-15 timeframe. My concern, I guess, listening now that you're still in the process of over the next 2 or 3 months getting estimates, which means there's no contract in place. And I note in your testimony that you have almost a hard stop based on the discontinuation of the United Network interface. And I appreciate that you mentioned risk management. What do you see as the risks and I guess the management of those risks to being successful within the next 2 years of fully making this transition? The reason I ask that is as I said, it was over a decade of wandering in the wilderness almost in the transition in the previous step. So how is what you're doing different? And what risks do you see and how are you mitigating those risks that you anticipate now and completely understand that those risks will potentially change as you get into the implementation?
So what I perceive as the risk mitigation strategy is the fact that the enterprise platform has already been built. We've got the front end that's working. We've got a tool that actually enables us to communicate with the front end and the back end. And we have the identity management working. We actually have civils and mainframe communicating for the first time. In the past, civils was here, mainframe was here, so we built a connection. Now, when somebody's online and updates information like their address, it actually goes to both systems. So we've tested the interfaces that could potentially be a very risky if you're just kind of introducing it at the point when you go live. And then by the approach, the gradual approach that Claudius described is we are going to chunk certain pieces, because when you talk about the mainframe, you're talking about, for example, the actual business rules that are in there related to how do I, process this, that. And another really important piece is we actually have the connections to AMVA and to producing licenses. So those are triggered. Those were very difficult. IDEMIA to produce the licenses through central issuance. I know this is a lot of detail, but really the pieces are there already. And so it's a matter of addressing the business systems, moving them to new technology. And oh, by the way, Civils is already a .NET platform. Mainframe is COBOL vSAM files. And what we're going to actually do is move so really the major component of this is I would say, peeling certain functions off of the mainframe, moving them to the new environment in a sequenced manner. So literally, you're going to test parts of pieces as you move along. And so that's how we're mitigating the risk. But we will learn, but the pieces that are going in aren't so huge that they would sink the boat. We might miss the boat with dates, but we're not going to sink the boat with what you guys experienced back when the entire system went down.
And Representative France, how are you? This is Tony Guerrera. I know that we go back in regards to the whole civils issue, and I think the commissioner hit the nail on the head, is that this is going to be a calculated way of delivering each and every piece that we come out with. So it's not something that you just can launch at one time, but you do it in a way that is, that the first piece is working at 99.9%, and then we move on to the second piece, rather than just dumping it all at once and then come to find out, wait a minute, there was something we missed here, and now we have to backtrack. And we don't want that to happen, do we?
So basically the strategy is do it in a manner that when you miss the boat, it doesn't sink it. It'll come around, we'll reset, figure out what didn't work, but keep moving. Because we do have to be there to connect with AMVA based on introducing state to state, but we have those connections with AMVA, IDEMIA, and all of the other back end connections already working.
And that all sounds great. I think that your presentation provides a good overview. There's good management structure, and you've anticipated what you can to date, which I think is a much more positive situation than we found ourselves in about 6 years ago. The one question, my second question directly related to the appropriations side is you expressed you think you'll have your estimate in 2 to 3 months, and that you expect there could be additional appropriations required. And if I go out 2 to 3 months, if it gets to be 3 months from today, we are out of session. So I guess my concern is if we are closer to that 3 months or even beyond, and you do need additional revenue, what is your plan to have that happen in order to support the current budget and then timely implementation of your plan through that process?
Yeah, and I think, that's a good point, Representative. So I think that, we're gonna have to look at this hopefully in a time frame of that 2 to 3 months. And obviously there's modernization IT bonding money too, that we may have to look at to make sure that we capture everything that we need. So we'll have a better grip on this at that time, but we also know that there is some bonding money out there that's been set aside for modernization. But thank you for that question.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions?
No more questions, so feel free to continue, I guess, with question item 2.
And so the second question was the plan for implementing the proposed 2% credit card processing fee included in the governor's budget. The deputy will handle that one.
Good morning, Senator Lopes and Representative Rosario and members of the subcommittee. Nice to see all of you. This question was asked in our previous meeting from Senator Hartley in regards to how the processing fee included in the governor's budget was going to affect the Department of Motor Vehicles. We're working closely right now with OPM and DAS to understand how we're going to implement the card. So we don't have all that information at hand right now, but 2 things are clear: that we will not exceed the amount that the credit cards put on place. And if it does go through, that we make sure it's very transparent to anybody that is using a credit card to any of the transactions that we provide. And that was for Senator Hartley that asked that question.
Okay. Any questions on that? Seeing none? Keep going. Proceed.
Okay, question 3, break out all federal COVID dollars received. We received close $8 million. Just a quick summary of what we received was for the appointment system, $165,000. For cleaning, roughly $2 million received, 24% of that $8 million. Temperature screening, roughly $1 million, around 12% of the funds. Digital enablement, which is the transactions that we've rolled online, that took up 39% of the funding that we received. And then for armed guards, 1.2 million, and 6.4% remaining was spent on sneeze guards, laptop, and reconfiguring workspaces. So that's how we spent the COVID funds.
So that was the breakdown that you requested. So we just sent that along.
And then
So
50,000 for FEMA.
So it was adequate to meet your needs, the amount of money you received?
Well, let's put it this way, Senator Lopes. Whatever
You made
we
it work.
get, we have to make do with, right?
You made do.
As I know that when you have a piece of pie and you've got 16 people, you cut that pie in 16 pieces, right? So
Yes, you do. All right, feel free. I don't see any questions, so feel free to the next question.
Okay, provide additional information on historical and projected modernization costs, including budget accounting funding for the project. I presented it for the 2021 for the project that we do know. We have $7.9 million that's been funded. That includes the mainframe. It includes some of the work to extend fields. It includes the mainframe. It includes the additional online services. It includes enhancements to systems supporting, as well as continuing to enhance and add to the enterprise solutions that are the backbone of the current and future platform for DMV.
Okay. Sorry, I keep toggling back and forth. Any questions from committee members? Seeing none, feel free to move on to the next question.
And then the 5 is a services that moved from being conducted in person to online as part of phase 2, as well as a list of transactions that that are now in production. And so what's in production is driver license and non-driver renewal that was implemented in November, driver license and non-driver ID that was implemented in February 8th, driver history request, February 8th, change of address, as well as web enhancements were implemented in February. And year to date, quickly, we have roughly 42,000 people have gone online for the driver license and ID, 3,000 for duplicates, 1,000 for driver history. So close to 50,000 people have, since going live, have gone online. So that people are really adapting to leveraging the online very quickly. So, and then for what we're looking at for phase 2, chatbots, which allows, conversations with customers. We're looking at motorcycle and RV registration renewals. And we have a list of roughly, I said, 116 transactions. And out of that, we're going to call out maybe 30 to 40 transactions. We held a kickoff meeting on last Friday where we had roughly 40 people on a Zoom call, kind of going through all of the transactions in order to prioritize. The group that I was on was talking about CDL. And so I'm sure we'll have some CDL transactions as part of release 2, but we are in the process of working through the planning stage of working both selecting the transactions as well as sequencing for the next 10 months.
Okay. I see a question from Representative Rosario.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioner, and good to see my former colleague, Representative Guerrera, who I want to thank for being instrumental in my growth as a legislator. I appreciate you. It's good to see you there. I have a quick question. Now, how many of the drive-only transactions have been done online? Does that count towards that implementation?
No, it did not. We've yet to move drive-only online. I think there's some legislative.
By statute, drive only has to come into the branch to show their residency. So that's a statute issue that requires in person.
Thanks for bringing that to my attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Rosario.
Thank you, Representative Zawistowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had asked during the previous session about driver's license renewals. Originally I mentioned mail, but I did include in that online. What are your plans for trying to get updated pictures? Because if you have renewals online, you're going to need at some point to get new pictures for these. I mean, an 18-year-old does not look like a 30-year-old.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, we are in the process of talking to IDEMIA, who
is that?
That's one of the vendors that produces our driver's license. And so I think people have to, if they are beyond the number of years that are allowed, they have to come into the office right now to take new pictures. So
what is the current number of years that it's allowed on a renewal like that?
You can use one cycle. So your previous license picture you can use if you renew online now. So for anybody, we're expecting 6 to 8 years to be good for right now. And that will give us time to work with our IDEMIA to come up with a more modernized solution on how to get updates to the pictures.
Okay, because I think there's some security concerns that we have to worry about.
Oh, absolutely.
As well.
Yes. Yes, Representative, absolutely. There's always going to be some security issues. And I think as the commissioner stated that with technology, everything that's becoming more advanced on your phones and so forth, there has to be a way that you can be able to take a picture on your phone to make sure it's identified as you, especially for the Department of Motor Vehicles. So those are things that are being worked out through IDEMIA that will help us in regards to the future of doing this.
Yeah, because you're going to need a way to be able to verify that the picture that is submitted is indeed that person as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's why when I talked about the major components of modernization, and I talked about ID verification, that's why that we're working very closely with BEST to ensure that we have, because there's certain levels of security that I don't know what the names are, and I'm sure Claudius knows, where if you have certain types of data, that's the level of security, and that's what so we have a security expert that's part of the team working with us.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And
No
then,
problem. I don't see any questions, so feel free to proceed to the next question.
okay, question 6. And this was about DMV's plans for licensed services by mail and by online.
Yeah, I think we've touched on that as part of our modernization discussion, but I think the question came up about the number of renewals that we do via mail. So we just provided some data that showed 2019, 0.8% of all renewals were done via the mail. It rose to 4% last year because of COVID, because we were closed for the 2.5 months. And so that was the vehicle that people used to get the renewals. And we're back under 1% right now. And the numbers this year so far are so small that that's not even statistically valid. So with going online, we expect to see mailed renewals to only be people who don't have computers, or they don't know how to use the technology. But historically, military was one of our bigger users, but now they can go online and get their renewals done there. So as we modernize, move forward, and add more to our suite of services online, we expect to see mailed services really diminishing down to a very fraction of what we do.
Any questions?
No.
And one of the pieces that's important too is our partners do about 50% of the renewals, which we see as decreasing as well, just because of online services. So
I saw that. I didn't realize the credit union rules too. That's interesting. All right. I don't see any, sorry, Representative Harrison has her hand up. Please proceed.
Good morning. Thank you for doing this. My question with renewals has to do with some renewals require us to, provide certain documentation with those renewals. And in the process of doing them online, switching from mail to online, have we considered that and made provisions perhaps to just upload documents?
So that's a good question. That's part of our modernization work, is trying to determine how we can securely upload documents. I mean, we all have a cell phone that we can take pictures and bring them in, but we have to make sure they're secure. Mm-hmm. So right now, with drive only, with Real ID, those documents have to be brought in a branch. They cannot be done online. So the online services right now consists solely of work that we can do in a secure fashion and does not require original documents. So our next step is to address exactly what you're talking about, which is the original documents and making sure that we can maximize security at all crossroads.
So I think more specifically, and maybe I'm in the wrong realm, but I was thinking of some vehicle registrations that applies to. So,
but good, that's a good question too, because vehicle registration. So new registrations right now, we do them primarily through dealer online. Right. So we're online with the dealer. So the bulk of those, we're adding casual sales, we're adding boats. And so we are adding services both for new as well as renewed registrations. So again, anything that requires an original document, we still require people to come in. So a renewal or any services right now, because of security, we only do those online if we don't require original documents. But the next step of modernization is to address exactly what you're asking.
So they won't necessarily have to do them strictly by mail. If that's the case, there'll be a way for them to upload documents and do them online.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Senator Chicarella.
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner, for answering all these questions. And I do apologize if this was already asked. I'm bouncing back and forth between meetings. But I do think modernizing and allowing the technology to be implemented to make things streamlined and save time and money is a great idea. But my question is there sometimes we use technology, things may fall through the cracks, whether maybe it's sent to a spam folder, or maybe it just doesn't go through. So the user is trying to get some documents over to the DMV, and it looks as if it was sent and everything is all set. And come to find out 2 years later or a year and a half later, they get something saying they have to retake a driver's license test because the renewal of their license didn't happen and they didn't know. And I asked this because I have a constituent that had this happen with the regular paper mail, and he's calling me saying this is, crazy. It was going to a different address, and now I have to retake my driver's license test. And obviously that could happen with registration and other different things. Would there be some type of catch safe for that, or a process, if something like that happened, both for mail and if we're going, forward with this digital platform?
So for starters, in the small, like the 4 months, we sent out text messages. We also sent out letters. And then as we approach, Gail actually sent out postcards. So that's a very small group, and we're in the first phases. But you're right, it's something that we have to solve for. I don't know if Gail has
Well,
worked that
I would
through.
comment that right now we have a 2-year window. So if your renewal is due, let's say March 1st, you have 2 years within which to get that renewal done. So if I apply for renewal, whether it be via mail or online, you have to have waited 2 years before you have to take your license test again. So that's a pretty significant period of time. So hopefully your constituent or any candidates would contact us if they haven't heard in 3, 4, 5 weeks versus 2 years. So we do have a fail-safe in place right now.
Well, so if you're sending text messages and postcards to the wrong address, and I think that was my constituent's problem, and I don't have all the details in front of me, and maybe I could reach out offline and try to help out this constituent, but the information may have been going to the wrong email, the wrong text message. And again, life gets hectic, especially everything that's going on in today's climate. Without a reminder, I could see how it could happen. I do understand that people do have to pay attention. If their license expired, they should be paying attention to that. But in the event that the mail or emails, in this case, we're going to the wrong area and just getting caught up in general life, there is that 2-year lapse in time. And again, question could serve for registration or other things that may have less time restrictions or allowances in time to lapse. But is there a process of not having to restart everything from the beginning, like the driver's test? Or is there a way that you confirm that the address, email address, phone number is active? So for example, if your automated system sends out the text message, if that number is no longer in service and or not associated with this individual, will you guys be alerted to that? Is one question. And I guess the second question, in the event of what happened with my constituent, is there a process so it does not have to, we don't have to go through the redoing of this whole driver's license test? And again, I'm sure this is could be for other things as well.
I do think that's an important question, but I feel that this is where personal person-to-person conversation. We have constituent services. Some calls come through the commissioner's office. Some calls go directly to branch. We handle every situation like that. We gather the facts. And for example, there is a process where if the resident was harmed, the commissioner's override supports. So it really, there's so many situations that can happen. That's why that's handled on a more personal basis. So Millie is a person that takes those calls for us and works with the back office, front office, the commissioner's office to explain everything. And then once we settle it, we kind of document the audit of what happened and why was whatever override was done. So it's a very tight process, but it's more human to human, more than trying to build it into technology.
And you're right, Senator. There are times, obviously, that we, as a DMV, could send a document to a wrong address or the address that was on file. But again, there's ways that we can identify it, help that individual on those cases, and bringing in that individual in to make sure that he has what he has now, backtrack it a little bit, and to help those individuals out.
Excellent. And I guess the second part of that question is if your information does go to a wrong, current to the technology process, if it does go to a wrong email address or a wrong phone number, will it alert your system and then trigger somebody to try to now find that new address or a new phone number?
What we go from is what's on file.
Right.
What we use is the email address that was given to us. And when you sign up for your email address, you actually receive a confirmation with the code saying, yep, it's me, because you're doing a transfer. That's how we do it today. So the likelihood of an incorrect email is probably high, but in the past, but today's world, you verify, you've gotten the code. So that's a kind of how we ensure the accuracy of that. In the past, change of address was done via paper. We have recently rolled out change of address. Both we're going to be rolling out as a standalone, but we've now rolled it out so that if you're requesting a renewal, you can actually right there and then change your address. So we will mitigate the issue that you're talking about. The past, it was very much prone to error because somebody sends in a paper, it doesn't get updated, or might be mistyped. Now the person owns updating their data online. So I think the modernization should mitigate these types of situations, but they also do happen. And so we do have the personal service that we provide to kind of track what happened and deal with it appropriately.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Very informative.
Okay. And I think now, so we're at question 7. And it's, you asked for an analysis and dashboard of services offered in 2018, including what's available online and in person. And we did send that forward.
Yes.
I'm not sure we can go through it because it's pretty much, it's more of an eye test. So I think if, for anyone who doesn't have it, if you can contact Millie, we'll make sure that we resend, but those that do have it, anybody got questions on this? It is attachment 3. And it's 3 pages.
We were all emailed a copy, so I think
Okay.
I don't see any questions. You can move on.
Okay, now question 8 was to provide a 3-year look at all license types issued by the DMV, and that data was also provided. Any questions from what was sent?
I do not see any questions.
Okay, and then the question 9 was, what is our plan for addressing the issue of Connecticut residents registering vehicles out of state? The question is here, and Chris Smith is available to respond if there are any questions.
It looks like you're saying it's the responsibility of the local police and assessor. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yep.
Senator.
Okay. I don't see any questions pertaining to that. You can.
Okay, and then has DMV, question 10, has DMV worked with other states to learn what they've incurred when legalizing cannabis? The answer is yes. And then we have a detailed set of answers in terms of what we've learned and what approach we're taking. But
I see the rest of the material. I don't see any questions, any hands raised. So if people have questions, they can refer to your written material. Please move on.
yep. And so the remaining set of questions are related to HR. And so question 11 was an analysis of recruitment trends, including the number of applicants per position, including turnover and attrition analysis by job type. I don't believe the last piece of it, we don't have that data yet from HR, but they did provide, let me just make sure, attachment 5, which kind of speaks to by job type, how many applicants were submitted, how many were not qualified, and then the total. So I did.
Yeah. I think Senator Lopes, you could see that questions 11, 12, and 13 all relate to HR or any issues with statistics, with recruitment, with minority participation, whatever it is. So it's all attached in attachments in your files or that you all have.
Yeah, I'm looking at them now, trying to toggle back and forth.
Yeah.
Still getting used to this sometimes. I'm looking for questions among committee members. Any questions from anybody? Not seeing any.
And the last one was like, was just the, yeah, I think someone requested just a budget breakout, and that's attached in your documents also. Just shows a quick budget breakout of the Department of Motor Vehicles. Just for your information, I think somebody wanted it.
In terms of the hiring metrics I'm looking at here, just some of the definitions, the ER and NQ.
I was hoping you wouldn't notice that. Unfortunately, I don't have an HR representative to kind of explain this, but I will send a legend for
The ERs and the EQs for your Senator.
Okay, so I do know NQ are the applicants that did not qualify for the position. And the ER were the applicants that did qualify. So if you're looking at, let me see what's the first one at the top.
And it might be in your footnote there too, Senator.
Okay.
But really, it pertains to qualifications. And so if you look at the .NET developer, we received 312 applications, 288 qualified, and 24 did not qualify. And so that's for labor relations, 144, 36. So that's basically how to read this. But let me see if she has a legend in the back. I should have checked on that.
No, that's pretty self-explanatory. Not qualified. The other one's obviously someone who probably did qualify.
Oh yeah, ER is eligible, NQ is not qualified, and yep, it's on page 4.
Yeah, it's on the bottom of page 4.
And then the next set of which is the Jobs app, just kind of what you asked, what's changed based on HR centralization. And so what you see in the past, HR was all within the agency. And so you see the blue is what's still within the agency and the green is what's now centralized. And then the last attachment 7 really speaks to staff makeup by race, gender, and position. And so you see that there are 13 in the administrative offices, 12 are male, 19 are female. Of the 12, 9 are white male, and then 13 are white female. 1 Black male, 4 Black females, 1 Hispanic male, 1 Hispanic female, and 1 and 1. So that's how you read the document. So the first is the total in the job group, and then the next is a total by male and female, and then the rest is total by gender.
Okay, any
That's it.
questions regarding these HR issues? I'm not quite sure who asked for that, but the written documentation there for them.
And
They have
then,
more.
and then the final page, attachment 7 really talks about staff makeup by race and gender over the last 5 years. And so that's what that last document is. And then the budget for motor vehicles is the last page.
All right. So I see you guys you're absolutely okay with a 50% reduction in your total budget. And other than that, things are good.
You got a great sense of humor, Senator.
Yeah, I have to these days. I have to. No, but thank you very much for
I just want to say thank you, Senator Lopes, because that's how we start off every appropriations hearing.
Nice to see you, Senator Austin.
Nice to see you. So any other questions?
I don't see any. Thank you very much, Commissioner, and the rest of your crew. And oh, sorry, Representative. I see Representative Reyes with his hands up.
Oh, Representative Reyes.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Senator Lopes, for the opportunity. Just wanted to make a comment, and I'm looking at the low numbers as it reflects the minorities in the organization. And my question to you is more direct, Commissioner, about a focused target on actually minority hiring and your thoughts on that.
So actually, the strategy over the last couple of years has been hiring your way to diversity. And for every position that's posted, there's a definition of the gold candidate, more often minority. But the probability of success with that strategy is kind of hard, because if it's almost like you have to have the right job open at the right time and this perfect candidate, kind of applying. And so the strategy that we are pursuing is more of being much more deliberate about, number one, internal training and development. DMV has not, in the recent past anyway, taken advantage of the CTC, the career training program. And so right now we have 2 minority candidates that are in development. We are now have created a program where we are mentoring our managers so that we can, and again, those groups are very diverse, so that we are growing from within. And then we are also pursuing much more deliberate types of internal program to grow within. And we will continue to do the hiring, but it's to me, it's just, as you can tell, for the last, we haven't really kind of broken through the numbers. And so we're hoping that this dual approach, both internal development and internal promotion, as well as hiring, will hopefully see an improvement in the numbers.
Thank you for that answer, Commissioner. I'm a firm believer that what gets measured gets done, and I think that if we don't put a focused effort into it, it won't happen. So I'm looking forward to your strategy being implemented and growing the DMV organization to look more like the population of the state of Connecticut. And thank you for the answer, and it's good to see the Deputy Commissioner there. Thank you, Senator Lopes.
Nice to see you, Representative Reyes. Real quick though, I do want to say that the commissioner, as she came into this position, has one of the focus was what you're talking about, and she has addressed a lot of that with people that are in the branches and so forth, mentoring them, getting them to positions of higher positions, right? And how do we get them to those positions? And she's focused on that through HR and through a mentoring program and schooling program, to ensure that we try to promote those individuals in those positions to better equip them and their lives in the future.
Because if you look at the numbers, the diversity is in the lower ranks. And so the people are here. It's a matter of being much more explicit, and COO Gail Billett and I are actually going to be also leveraging the internal posting for promotions. We've tended to, again, go outside, but with people getting exposure to modernization in other areas, we believe that there are people internally who have the
Right.
skills that, so I'm sure when we talk next year, we should see some movement.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank
And
you.
Representative Reyes,
Thank you.
Representative Reyes, real quick, can you text me where you got that sweater, please? I'd like to get one of those too. All right.
My pleasure.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It's, I don't know how for us to leave.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Senator Lopes.
My glasses, so I can see the button to push.